Hey guys, and welcome back to another system design review video for Lost Ark. We're going to be going over several of the terrible systems that exist in Lost Ark. Many of us are speculating that they are going to get some kind of improvements in the low on announcements in a few days. These systems have been in the game for years now, and we need to talk about them. Real quick, before we get started, I want to go over the idea of what an evergreen system is. So Pirate Software did it best, I think, in explaining what it is very quickly, and he specifically calls out Lost Ark for it. So an evergreen system is a system for, in this case, power. Doesn't always have to be, but in this case, player power that as you increase the power of your character, it stays with you forever. So it doesn't matter if we did it last year or the year before or whatever, it's continuing with you. It's something that you work on over time, and it's like a thing that you can check off your list of like, I have this thing, and it's still with me. That's the idea of making it evergreen. That is opposed to the idea of borrowed power, which is a temporary thing, which is something that Blizzard and World of Warcraft have done a lot over the past, 10 years. And a lot of people had complaints about. Both have their pluses and minuses. What you're going to see is, I think, some pretty good evidence on why some evergreen systems need to be done better. And ideally, the idea is that evergreen systems are worked on over time instead of just left behind and something that you have to get, which is what you'll see here in a lot of cases. The main two systems that I want to focus on today are the Transcendence systems and the Elixir systems. Later on, we'll do an Arc Passive review, but that's getting some changes. Basically, for Arc Passive, just know that when it first launched a few months ago in Korea, and we got it recently, like 2 months ago or something, it was kind of underwhelming. We got into tier 4, the Arc Passive, and most people couldn't really play with it. And even then, only my main can use it right now, and my main isn't even fully there after several months. So it's not something most people can play with, and the new update we're going to be getting on the 18th is going to help with that. Anyway, so like I said, we're going to be focusing mostly on the Transcendence system and the Elixir system that you see here. So with the gear that you're looking at right now on the screen, if you look down below the stats, you'll see Transcendence level 7, flower icon 20, and then slightly under that, a flower icon 123 total applied to all gear, and then applied up to 20 effect. So what this means is, looking at this piece of gear, on this helmet, I have 20 flowers, level 7, Transcendence. And then 123 total applied to all gear is my total Transcendence for all of my gear. And then the applied up to level 20 effect, it just means that I do have the level 20 effect. Here you can see all of the detailed information on what you get for 5 flowers, 10 flowers, 15 flowers, and the 20 flower bonus. So I usually just close that by hitting shift, and then you can see that it just says applied up to 20 effect. If you care more about that, here I'll just look through them real quick and you can take a look at what all these different things are. Basically, they are just different power upgrades that you get that do different things. Some of them are just like chest is just weapon power mostly. Pants give a buff that relies on your other team members and things like that, so it can be very, very helpful and important. And then weapon is just increasing your attack power and stuff like that. So all right, so now I'm taking you guys to the Transcendence screen. This is what it looks like when you go to transcend your gear and what you have to end up doing. If you hover over these, you'll see all of my different Transcendence levels, and then this one, for example, is not completely maxed yet, which means that I have more flowers that I can get on this level here. But on these other ones, if we look over here, I'm usually missing at least 1 flower on every piece, because that way I get the 20 set effect and I don't really worry about min-maxing the last flower. It does give you a little more stats. So what you'll see is, if I go in here and I need to re-roll my Transcendence at this level, so let's just go ahead and say we're going to work on chest or whatever, right? So it's going to cost me gold. These are all supposed to be gold sinks, by the way. So then we say this. And what this does is it brings us to a tile minigame where all of these different things give you different effects, right? So all these different cards are randomly generated. And then, as you'll see, once I start hitting some of these, special tiles then pop up. And there are like 10 different special tiles that you can get, and some of them are better and some of them are worse. So what this means is you are at the mercy of the RNG for multiple things here. You're at the mercy of RNG for the cards that you're getting, because each card is random. And then also you're at the mercy of the RNG of the special tile that you get. Now this one happens to be pretty good, but unfortunately we don't have anything that we can realistically use to really hit it here, or that we want to enhance. We could maybe go like this, and then we could purify this enhancement tile, which gives us the effect of enhancing these one level. And you can see what that is when I do this. Basically, it gives this a more powerful effect, and there's multiple levels to each card. There's 3 different levels, and then there's also some special things that can happen with other cards as well. And so what this does now is it guarantees everything it hits is 100% instead of it being a % chance for everything other than the tile that I clicked on. So as you can imagine, these multiple levels of RNG really cause an issue, right? If I go up to here, now look, I only have a 75% chance of using the same thing, but we got a blessing tile. So what we need to do, the blessing tile makes it so we don't use an effect. So we have to take that one. This is a clone tile. We don't have anything to clone. So it's not really that relevant right now. And we don't really have anything where we could realistically hit it anyway. We could maybe do this, I guess, and go like 50% here. Or probably go with this and then hope we hit the clone. Okay, we did. And then relocation tile, which really throws things wonky. Just to see if we can, or just to force this so I can show you guys. Some of these tiles are really good and useful, and other ones are not as useful most of the time. So as you see, the entire board changes. So what this ultimately has led to, these different layers of RNG, these different special tiles and card combinations, stuff like that, is people have created an artificial intelligence calculator that we end up using. All of this is just work to get 3 flowers on a piece of gear. And if you don't get the 3 flowers, or it doesn't look like you're going to, because there is a minimum number of times you can change, and also, as you see here, if you use up too many attempts, you don't get the 3 flowers. You have to get the 3 flowers on almost every level to get the 20 effect. You can get maximum 21, so you can be missing 1 flower. So what you have to do is you have to stop Transcendence here, say, oh, I'm not going to get at this effect. It's not looking good. I have to re-roll and start again. And so what this means is that you will spend a lot of time doing these systems, a lot of time. At this point, having done it 6 times, it still takes me about 30 minutes per piece to do. And you have to remember that there's 6 pieces, and that's 30 minutes on average. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's, less, depending on how lucky I get. That is still 3 hours of playing this stupid minigame. And to be honest, it is so important and so powerful now that you have to have max transcendence on your characters, or at least close to max. You will get gatekept from every group. You will be missing a large percentage of your power that is needed to do this content. And that's ultimately the problem, is like, that's not even including the cost of the time and the gatekeeping of how long it takes you to get the items to unlock these levels. This is my main, right? So my main already has access to all these different levels, and I can reset everything that I want even if I don't have the 3 flowers yet. Stay in mind, one of the raids drops the materials that you need to purchase these different transcendence levels, and so that ends up being a longer process as well. There are ways that you can get around it, but that's the idea of how you're supposed to get it. When I first started interacting with the system, to complete Transcendence on my main the first time, it took me a total of 9 hours of playing this minigame and hundreds of thousands of gold. Hundreds of thousands of gold and 9 hours of my time playing this minigame over and over and resetting and over. And technically, yes, there is a pity system, but it's not very good. What the pity does, and I could show you guys right here, I'm just going to keep resetting until I hit the pity. And this is what you have to do. And sometimes when you start the calculator, it'll tell you that you just need to reset. Just reset again. Okay, we finally hit pity level 1. This tile right here went from a hazardous tile to a good tile. And by the way, I didn't explain this earlier. The hazardous tiles make it so that way you regenerate your tiles, so you have more tiles to hit. So these are bad tiles. It makes it slightly easier. This is not this is a very, very complicated and convoluted system that, like I said, the player base doesn't even interact with anymore. We turn our brains off, we leave it to the artificial intelligence calculator, and just click, 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 spend gold and reset over and over and over again. It suggests a reset, we do a reset. And it is the most monotonous and annoying system that I have ever come across in any video game, period. It is incredible how this system made it from someone's mouth in front of other people to actual development. I don't know how we got here. I don't know how Smilegate operates, but this makes me really wonder, like, on so many different levels, why they were doing this. Was it intended that this would be fun? Was it intended that people would want to come back and interact with the system? What misunderstanding do they have over there that like makes them think that this was okay? Regardless, hopefully it's getting fixed. In our version, it has gotten a little bit better. We've gotten several events that just ended up giving levels of transcendence when players hit certain thresholds, like the first time they cleared Theamine, it will give them the first, it'll give them the first 9 flowers, right? So literally level 1, 2, and 3 will give them 3 flowers. And while that is better, it is still forcing them to interact with this horrific system that has to become necessary because it's evergreen. Because it's evergreen, you have to do it. You do not have a choice. Like, unless you are not going to play the video game, you have to do this. This, to me, is a perfect example of how not to do an evergreen system. One, an evergreen system should be something that is fun, that is meaningful. And this is meaningful, but it is not fun by any means. It is a time sink, it is a gold sink, and it is something that I hate interacting with every single time. Every player that I know dreads interacting with the system. It prevents you from making new characters because you don't want to sink the time in to do it. It is a horrific system, and this should never have existed in the first place. All right, so now that I've done my rant about Transcendence, so now we'll start talking about the Elixir system. So the Elixir system, in a lot of ways, is more annoying and more just terrifying than even the Transcendence system, because it adds RNG, I feel like, to an entirely new level. So really quick, we'll just briefly go over it. The way that it works is you start out with these empty slots, and so you get to pick what goes into those slots. Now, of those effects, you can only pick one of the 3, right? And again, this is a gold sink in multiple ways. Just know that it costs a lot of gold. So let's just say we're gonna go weapon power. We're gonna go attack power. Well, I already know what all these things do, but just keep in mind how many different options you're seeing. And then I'll show you when we get to the last step, one improvement they have done that has slightly helped. And also, even just like before we didn't have this option here, and you can see how long some of these effects took. Every single time you clicked, you had to wait like 10 seconds. So the cutscene off addition has really, really helped. And then these are all the possible combinations that you can get for these different things. This is what we mean by like RNG on top of RNG. And you'll see how horrific this goes. So let's just go ahead and say I am trying to target. So let's just try and go crit damage on our pants to get a better effect. Okay. And what you'll see is that every single time we end up clicking this, every single time, we will be getting a different effect. Oh, let me move this over a little bit more so you guys can see too. There you go. So what we have to do is we have to hit these different thresholds. So on the right, you'll see here that the 1 is 3 nodes, 2 is 6 nodes, and then 3, 4, and 5 are all these nodes at the end. So you do have to get an 8 on every piece on average. So we'll just go ahead and do this one. I can walk you guys through it a little bit and you can just see. So we're gonna go ahead and say, no, I don't want to cost 2 attempts. We could do attack power, but let's just do 2 at the same time. Okay, good. We got actually 2 that we like. In this case, we're actually pretty lucky. We have 3 options that are pretty good and only 2 like bad options, quote unquote bad. They're not really bad. They're just like not beneficial. right? They're not going to hurt us. They're just not great. So if we're trying to min max, there's, you know, you just got to try and go for the ones that are actually good and beneficial. So after we click that first one, you can see that there's this power of order and this power of chaos. So power of order increases every time you continue to click on the power of order. So every time you click on a blue node, it will give you another blue node and then another blue node. And at 3 blue, you get what we call super blue, and you'll get a more powerful blue option. The chaos ones are filled every time you don't click on them. So if I click here, you'll see blue will fill up, but also we'll get 1 chaos node on each of these. Right? And then we'll just go for the super blue, even though that wasn't necessarily a great option because we're trying to go for crit damage. And so we got our super blue here, but as you see, our chaos options fill up. When the chaos options fill up, they also give effects, but most of them are bad, to be honest. Most of them are bad. Realistically, you're just looking for the ones that give you like 0 to 4 or 5 to, or like 4 to 5 as a beneficial effect. So we're just going to keep going so I can show you guys. But again, all these different things are completely random. You can see how many options there are for these different things. So we're going to keep going. We'll just keep going, even though it's going to cost us 2 of our good one and putting it on a bad, just because I'm trying to show you guys the super blue effect and the super chaos stuff. Okay, so what we can see here is we got 1 level for the one we suggest. Not really great. Randomly distribute the levels of everything. Randomly distribute the levels of things and see how it turns out. Let's just try a reroll and see if we get anything else that's good. All right, we get to reset. We just randomly change the effect on the slot. So instead of being resource blessing, it'll be something completely different on that list, that huge list of things that I showed you earlier. Or 1, 3, and 5 will have a 15% higher great success chance. Because I didn't explain that yet. That's actually good. So every time you hit a node on a thing, this number down here will tell you the rate at which you can get 2 nodes instead of 1. So what you're seeing is you get random RNG for setting up these first 4 slots. You get to pick the 5th slot. Each one of these options is random, and then each time you get to pick one, it's also random. Most of the time, you don't usually get to pick which one it goes into. So after every single click of select advice, it usually be random. So I'll just click this because it's the only good option here, and I don't want to use another reroll. So increasing our great success here, here, and here. And it went here and we didn't get a great success. So every single time you click select advice, you get this effect here that you click on and then plus 1 node, right? So we'll say a weapon level, we'll get at least 1 or 2 points in weapon level. I don't know, it's not really worth it. This is already a dead elixir, so I'd have to go on to the next one, but we'll just play it out anyway. Okay, I only got 1. And then we'll get another one. Okay, that great success. So that actually worked out pretty good in our favor. Would have been better if we had gotten the 2 on the previous and then the 2 more, but hey, 3 points in 1 turn, can't really complain about that. Again, what you're seeing is multiple levels of RNG. Luckily, they have sort of alleviated the system by making it so that way we have a different resource we can use other than our gold to like roll these elixirs, but it's only special ones that are given out from events. And you still have to go through the process of actually cutting them. And unfortunately, I picked a random seal, which is potentially a good one, but it did seal off the one we were going for. So, and like I said earlier, this is already dead. There's no way with 5 points left that we are going to get a 5 and a 3. So you can hopefully see a little bit of how annoying the system is to interact with. But again, it's something that we all have to do. This is another example of a evergreen system that we do not have a choice about. We have to interact with it because we need it for our characters. I'll just show you guys really quick. If we scroll down, the elixir section here says common, master evasion, and then helmet critical order. If you look a little bit further down, you'll see critical level 2. So what that means is I have critical on my helmet and my gloves. And that I have 40 set in total, which gives me level 1 gives you 6% critical hit damage, and level 2 gives you an additional 6% critical hit damage. So with 12% critical hit damage, that isn't additive the other way. It's actually like super valuable. It's a lot of damage. And is very, very important. It is kind of insane that they have to go through this level of RNG. Usually I want to say to get 40 set, now that I am very, very comfortable with the system and don't even necessarily need to use the calculator, but again, there's a calculator for it. I would say on average, it probably took me maybe, I don't know, maybe like 40 elixirs to roll. Maybe a little bit less, maybe like 25 or 30 to get 40 set on my gunslinger. I'm trying to think, actually. I don't actually know an exact number, but it usually only takes me about an hour. Just sitting down and rolling the various event elixirs that I have saved up. But again, this is another example of a system that we have to interact with because it is crucial. The problem with this is that it's still a system from a very old dungeon that people don't interact with anymore, that people need. And so they have to give them out through events and stuff like that and just make it so you have more access to it. But it's just this old system, and even the fix, quote unquote, that they have been coming up with is not a very good one. So in the recent stuff, what they've done, and actually if I switch over to my gunslinger, I can show you. But basically what they have done is they have made it so that way, upon completing the first gate of tower one time, I believe it's first gate. We can double check here in a second. It gives you quote unquote 40 set, but it gives you the wrong 40 set, which means you're missing out on much of the power that you need. So it gives you 40 set, the luck 40 set, but I didn't even interact with it because I literally still had to get the things I need anyway. The problem is for a DPS character, you cannot realistically use the 40 set that they give you. And the reason for that is this. For this character, for every DPS character, you will either be running critical or mastery, which is not luck. So you will have to reroll your helmet and your gloves, because remember, you need the effect on both, right? So critical chaos here, critical order on my helmet. You need critical. You have to have a level 8, so you have to reroll your helmet. And then if you look at pants, again, you're going to see that crit damage. Every single character needs crit damage here or additional damage. So you have to reroll your pants because they're not going to give that to you too. But then if we look at our shoulders, you'll also notice boss percentage damage. Boss damage, 2.4%. You're going to be missing out on 2.4% if you use that quote unquote 40 set luck elixir that they give you, just from not having this one elixir on your shoulder. Like all those different things, you're gonna be missing out on a lot of damage, probably even more than 20%. This is an absolute troll system. Sorry, I had to cut that for cursing. The reason why is because they give you 40 set. So a new player coming in will look at this and be like, well, I have my 40 set, which I mentioned in my previous video, but they don't have the right 40 set, right? They're not having any of the right stuff. And if I'm being honest, if I look at you and you don't have boss damage on your shoulder, I'm not taking you. If I look at you and you don't have critical damage, additional damage on your pants, I'm probably not taking you. If I look at you and you're using the luck set, I'm not taking you. Right? And I don't consider myself to be like a gatekeeper. I bring Makokos, I bring, even people without the Makoko leaf that look like Makokos, if we can carry them and stuff like that, I don't really mind. And I even went in on the Ignite servers and helped people that were brand new to the game, right? Like I don't mind playing with those players, but if I'm looking at your elixirs and it looks like you're just trolling and that you don't care, which is what this is, if a regular player, regular veteran sees this, they're gonna think you either don't have any idea about the game or that you're actually just trolling and you're being cheap. And so you're just gonna get gatekept. Just straight up. It just is what it is. And it's unfortunate, but that's just what they're doing. These RNG on top of RNG on top of RNG systems are so infuriating. If they just want us to spend our gold, let us spend our gold. I don't care. If they said, hey, buy a decent, critical or mastery set if you're DPS, or a luminous set if you're a support, elixir set, a starter elixir set for those sets for like 200k gold, fine. you know, whatever it has to be. If they want to let us buy Transcendence or make it account bound or whatever, you know, I'm fine with that. Do not spend my time doing these systems. Like, to me, that is more annoying. So what I'm expecting is I'm expecting them at low on to make it so that way every event like this needs to give a bare minimum, pretty much exactly what I have here, right? So it needs to give at least the option of critical or mastery on helmet and gloves. Pants need to have at least critical damage or additional damage. And shoulders need to have boss damage. Everything else after that, let people min-max with the silver elixirs or do whatever, that's fine. Those are needed. And as far as the Transcendence goes, players need to be able to get Transcendence and need to not invest a lot of time. Like, us poor saps that already did it on all of our characters, it sucks for us, but like, don't make a new player do this. You will not have a new player engage with these systems and enjoy it whatsoever. It will instead just be another barrier. One, they're getting gate kept by, and two, just something that they're just going to get really annoyed doing. No, it's not fun to do these systems. It's not fun to do Transcendence. It's not fun to roll elixirs. Like, you will not find people in our community or in the Lost Ark community who enjoy these things. They just don't exist. These are not systems to be done for enjoyment, and the reason why we know that is because they're designed to be finished. If they weren't designed to be finished and they were being updated and they were being continued in some way, then we would know that they actually do want us to engage with these systems long term. You know, if they're trying to make them more fun, if they're making them a little more forgiving and adding, you know, I don't know, just any amount of fun to them, we could argue maybe that they're being kept for fun, but they're not. They're being kept so you can check off the box, I have this power upgrade and I spent this gold. That's why they're here. So again, I just wanted to reiterate that, like, you know, I know that I've said a lot of bad things about Lost Ark in this, and specifically, you know, even about the Smilegate devs, but to be honest, I really do love the game. I genuinely do. But systems like these infuriate your veterans, gatekeep or add gatekeeping and barriers of entry to your new players. Maybe more importantly, like literally the number one issue, they're not fun. Why did you make them? You know, like at the end of the day, I think it's really important to remember that, like, even in a grindy game, even if, you know, something is meant to be quote unquote homework, right, there should still be fun. You know, when we go and we do those chaos dungeons or the Kurzan front lines or whatever, we are enjoying, you know, blowing up the mobs. We are enjoying playing our characters and doing the Guardian raids and stuff like that. I know we always meme about them being homework, but it is fun. Even our homework raids, right? Yeah, technically we try to be optimal and get it done quickly. We are enjoying playing the game with our friends and stuff like that. Nobody is enjoying these systems, and they're not meant to be enjoyed. These systems were designed to take time, they were designed to take gold, and I think that that is more and more apparent as we leave them further and further behind. At this point, all my characters are pretty much done with Transcendence, almost. At this point in time, a lot of players have left the Elixir system behind. They're not going to go back and min-max it, myself included. I cannot be bothered. Some people do at the very high end, and that's great. Some people are going back and getting every single flower. I will not be doing that. There just needs to be a better way of making systems. There doesn't need to be. There is a better way of making systems that don't require people's time investment, but still do the things that they need, right? And a big one is the gold sink. They build these systems to try to remove gold from the economy because they want people to swipe, because it's a free-to-play game. But you can do that and not also waste hours and hours and hours of my time. There literally isn't a way that you can spend money and get this stuff either. The only way to get them is time. So it's not like they're making money off of it either. They need to figure out how to fix these systems in a way that doesn't make it such a big barrier to entry and irritate the crap out of old players. And I hope that every system coming out further in the future will not do this. Spend the gold, I don't care, let me click the button and be done with it. Don't make me invest hours and hours and hours of my time. Anyway, thank you guys so much. If you made it to the end of the video, I greatly appreciate it. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.